Hello and welcome to the longest running sports show at Canisius College. This is #Griff Sports. I'm Kyle Ferrara.
And I'm Brandon Rutt. Today we'll bring you a special extended version of the show as we preview the MAAC Basketball Championships with editor of the Griffin, Nick Veronica, and contributor to the show, Joe Rutigliano. And we will also feature Griff's point guard, Billy Barron. But before we get all to that, let's recap you of all the Griff's action from last week.
We'll start with the sport that everybody's talking about right now, men's basketball.
Oh, yeah.
They finished their regular season by splitting games against St. Peter's and Rider. They beat St. Peter's in overtime, 77-65, behind 23 points from junior point guard Billy Barron and 22 points from senior guard Harold Washington. They lost to Rider 65-61, behind 14 points each from Barron, Washington, and fellow senior guard Isaac Sosa. In the game, senior Alshwan Hines reached the 1,000 career point mark, and for this accomplishment, he is a nominee for this week's Golden Performer of the Week. The loss dropped the Griffs down to the 5 seed in the MAAC tournament, and they will take on Iona in the first round on Saturday. We will preview that in detail later in the show, but first, let's take a look at women's basketball. Brandon?
The Griffs women's basketball team also split their 2 games over the weekend. They beat Niagara 51-36 behind a very balanced attack as 9 players played at least 17 minutes and scored in the game. They also picked up 2 points in this year's Battle of the Bridge, which they now lead 14-11. But the key game was on Sunday against Siena as the Griffs battled the Saints for sole possession of 6 plays, which would give them first round bye in the tournament. Unfortunately, the Griffs lost by a score of 64-53 as they fell to the 7th seed in the tournament where they will take on last place St. Peter's in the rematch from last year. In the game on Sunday, the Griffs led by a double-double from senior Ashley Wilkes, her 4th of the season, as she had 19 points, 10 rebounds, and she had a total of 28 points and 17 rebounds on the weekend, making her a nominee for the Golden Performer of the Week.
Well, that's certainly a tough loss, and if you remember, Brandon, when we interviewed Ashley Durham a week ago, she said that she wanted to reserve judgment on the season until after this game was played because she wanted so desperately for the first time in her career to avoid that play-in round of the MAAC Championship. Let's take a look at hockey now. Griffs hockey beat RIT twice over the weekend by scores of 6-5 on Friday night and 4-2 on Saturday. Sophomore Cody Freeman led the team with 2 goals in the win on Friday, while junior Kyle Gibbons recorded a goal and 2 assists in Saturday's victory. Gibbons also recorded 2 assists in Friday's game and was named the Atlantic Hockey Player of the Week. For his performance, he has also been chosen as a nominee for the Golden Performer of the Week, and the 2 victories helped Canisius earn home ice in the first round of the playoffs as they will host Bentley in a best-of-3 series.
Griffs baseball wrapped up a 3-game series against Murray State with a doubleheader on Sunday. They won the first game of the series on Friday 15-5 behind a breakthrough offensive performance and 7 dominant innings from junior pitcher Garrett Cartwright, who allowed just 1 run in the contest. From the doubleheader on Sunday, the Griffs won the first game 6-5 in 10 innings off of a walk-off from a single from senior catcher Brooklyn Foster. But Game 2 wasn't as close as the Griffs won 11-4. The Griffs took the lead in the top of the 3rd and would never look back. Offensively, they were led on the weekend by junior first baseman Jimmy Luppins, who went 5 for 10 over the weekend, scoring 5 runs and driving in 4 more. He is nominated for this week's Golden Performer of the Week. The team improved to a 7-4 on the season.
Let's move on to women's lacrosse. The Griffs got their first victory of the season in a 13-7 win over Binghamton on Saturday, primed by a strong defensive effort. They were led by senior captain Lindsey Morgan, who matched a school record by recording 8 turnovers. She also added 3 points, and her performance makes her the final Golden Performer of the Week nominee. The team is now 1-2 on the young season and are playing against Robert Morris as we are filming tonight.
And finally, we'll talk about men's lacrosse as they play at home against Cornell on Tuesday night, losing by a score of 18-7. The Griffs hung tough for 3 quarters, but Cornell scored the final 10 goals in the contest. Sophomore goalie Alex Joe Venetio recorded 13 saves as he became the first Griff goalie to record double-digit saves in his first 4 career starts.
Now that you're caught up on last weekend's action, let's jump right into Around the MAAC. In men's basketball, the top 4 teams all played each other on Thursday or Friday. Rider beat Niagara 68-59, while Iona beat Loyola in a high-scoring 90-86 affair. From Saturday and Sunday's action, Niagara clinched first place with a 78-61 victory over St. Peter's, while Loyola beat Manhattan 63-61 in a matchup which will be featured in the second round of the MAAC Championship. We'll take one final look at the regular season standings. Niagara won the regular season crown, but Riders stormed up the standings late in the season to claim second place. Manhattan, by virtue of the tiebreaker, stole the 6th spot away from Fairfield, and for this they will avoid the first round of the MAAC Championship.
Now let's take a look at how things shook out in the women's side. Mariners continued the perfect season as they beat St. Peter's 75-50. And 8th place Loyola upset 3rd place Fairfield 56-48. Every team was in action on Sunday as Iona and Riders squared off in the battle of the top 4 teams, with Iona coming out on top 76-63. And Mariners ended the season unbeaten by crushing Fairfield 70-33. Looking at the standings, it is, of course, Mariners in first place at 18-0, and Iona, Fairfield, Rider, Niagara, and Siena rounding out the 6 teams that receive a first-round bye.
And lastly, let's take a look at Atlantic hockey. Friday's action gave us a couple of ties as Robert Morris and Mercyhurst finished overtime locked up at 3 apiece, while Sacred Heart and Connecticut ended in a 4-4 draw. On Sunday, Robert Morris and Mercyhurst tied again, this time at 1, while American International completed a sweep of Bentley, which was instrumental to the Griffs locking up home ice in the first round. The standings list American International ahead of Bentley, although it is Bentley that finished higher as they will take on the Griffs, while RIT draws American International in the first round. Niagara finished the year in first, which should be a surprise to no one, but Air Force and Holy Cross finished strong down the stretch to finish in second and third respectively and close the gap on the Purple Eagles. Brandon, now let's move on to a game we like to call odds. We played it a few weeks ago, and it is one of our favorites. We're going to go through and give the odds of each of the Griffs teams starting the playoffs this weekend, what their odds are on winning a championship. And I'll start right now with hockey. There's 12 teams in the Atlantic Hockey Conference. Unfortunately, the Griffs were towards the bottom. They do have home ice in the first round, and so I think they'll beat Bentley, but going much further than that, it's going to be really tough. Niagara, Holy Cross, and Air Force are at the top of the division. They have the best chances. 1 in 12 is less than a 10% chance, but I'm going to be nice. I'm going to give the Griffs a 10% chance of winning this championship.
Wow, way to lowball that. Well, I'm a little optimistic than my partner here. I think, sure, they're on the bottom, but I think anyone could win this tournament. It's all open. The Griffins had an excellent season. Sure, it was up and down, but they had big wins also. So I'm going to have to go with a better number. I'm going to give them 30% chance to win the tournament.
That's a little higher. It's pretty optimistic, and I like your optimism.
Indeed.
Although I don't know if I'm feeling as optimistic about it as you are. Now let's talk about women's basketball. Again, they have a 1 in 10 chance if you just look at the pure numbers, but of course, they're one of the bottom 4 teams. I think I'm giving them a less than 10% chance, and that's not going to win me a lot of friends. But you know what? This is Mariners' division to win anyway. They're undefeated. I don't see anyone stopping them. But I'm giving the Griffs an 8% chance. That's maybe even a little higher than it actually is.
Well, I have to think, sure, the Griffs women's team has fallen below expectations, but again, anyone could win a tournament. It just depends on what kind of momentum you have going into a game and how you perform in that game. It's going to be a tough, long road for them, but I'm going to give them a slightly better chance, and I'm going to give them a 15% chance to win the championship.
Well, again, I appreciate the optimism. That's still a pretty low number, though. So it shows that really, if the Griffs can win their first round game, I think it'll be a successful playoff run for them. Now talking about men's basketball, we're going to preview this in detail later in the show with Nick, Veronica, and Joe Rutigliano, who joined us on the set on Monday. I'm giving them a better chance than I gave the other two. It still might be a low percentage, but I think it's right where it belongs. I am giving them a 35% chance of winning the tournament. And when you consider that there's 7 teams that have a legitimate shot at winning, I think that's a pretty good percentage.
It's pretty good for like your standards, but we all know what's going to happen. Canisius College actually has a chance from last year. I mean, last year they weren't even that good. They were in last place, and now they've risen from the top, like 5th place, to actually do something magical in this tournament. So I'm going to give them a slightly higher chance. I think I'm going to double that score. Well, not double, but very close to double. I'm going to give them, since they're very good, a 65% chance to win the tournament. I think they could go a long way in this tournament.
Well, Brandon, I think so too, but that's kind of high. And that's why I think there's a 100% chance that you live in a world with rainbows, dolphins, and butterflies. Again, I love the optimism, but it's a little high, and that is why, unfortunately, you've lost the game this week.
How do I lose the game?
We're going to take a quick commercial break now. When we come back, Billy Barron will be in studio. Thanks for joining us. This is #Griff Sports.
Really? I lost it.
There was one day that we had just done the cardiovascular unit, in class that day. And then right after class, I went over to the Vascular Institute, volunteered, put the scrubs on. And one of the doctors asked me if I wanted to see an open heart surgery. And so I said, yeah, really? Sure.
I came into Canisius as obviously as a freshman, not really sure what I wanted to do. I ended up taking a digital media arts class, and that really just kind of jump-started, my career.
And I think being where we are in the city and in the world with the medical campus that we have here is really an opportunity that I wouldn't have anywhere else.
It's more than just academics. Meet different people. Go out and do things. There's so much more to college. It's an experience.
I instantly fell in love with doing video work, graphic design. I started pursuing more and more opportunities in the school, whether it was doing admissions videos on the sides. I did a couple videos for alumni relations, the president of the college, and then I actually got noticed last year, and they sent me over to the Philippines to create a feature-length documentary.
I lived with a host family while I took classes in Spanish with Spanish professors at the University of Oviedo, and I was a Spaniard for a semester, and it was the best decision I made as a college student.
Be the charming type. Take off your gloves and show what they hide. I'll let you cry if you close your eyes. I'll have an answer for your eyes. There goes my love. There goes my love. There goes my love.
Welcome back to #Griff Sports. I'm now joined by the point guard for the Golden Griffins, Billy Barron. Billy, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So the first thing I want to ask you about, you're named first team All-MAAC. You were nominated as the best mid-major player in the country. What do those individual awards mean to you?
I think it's a true testament to my teammates, the way they've been able to shoot the ball, the way my bigs have been able to finish the ball. Isaac, there's been a lot of times where Isaac has hit fadeaway NBA threes, and I've gotten the assists for it. And, there's times where Harold's bailed me out too. And along with Jordan stretching out the defense and Chris finishing down low. Altogether, those guys are just, and the other guys too, they just made my job a lot easier being the point guard of this team.
So let's talk about the team a little bit more. What did you guys say to each other, and what did your dad say to you guys after the game on Saturday?
That was a tough pill to swallow because we had control of the game the entire time. We knew we're the better team. We kind of just lost that game, to tell you the truth. They took advantage of some of the mistakes we made. Some of the shots we hit at the end, or that we missed at the end, we usually hit those shots. When those don't fall, you got to rely on your defense to get stops, and that's something we didn't do. Towards the end of the game, last couple minutes we made stops, but throughout the course of the game, my father really stressed that in the first half and in the start of the second half, we didn't get stops. If we would have got those stops, we could have stretched the lead out at times from 6 to 10 to 15. That would have made our jobs a lot easier coming down the stretch.
Right, and I know there's probably a couple games that throughout the course of the season you guys wish you could have back, but do you think where things ended up with you guys as the 5 seed, you're in a position to make a strong run in the championship now?
Oh, for sure. We believe we're the most talented team in the MAAC, and from 1 to 15, we got talent on this team. We got guys who can do multiple things, and that's the big thing. We got guys like Jordan Heath who can, go down low and crash with the bigs and step out and hit threes. You got Isaac who can stretch it off from NBA range, also pump fake you, go one dribble and pull. Harold can do a little bit of everything, and Chris is just a bully down low. And when you got all types of things like that, it shows defenses a couple different looks, and they kind of don't know what to prepare for. So we're comfortable going into this. We're hungry. We're going to face a good Iona team. It's going to be back and forth, but it's whoever plays the better defense, to tell you the truth. I know people are talking about the offenses of both and how we run out and get in transition, how we score a lot of points, but it's going to be whoever locks up on defense is going to win this game.
Well, that's definitely true. Iona's the best offensive team in the MAAC. They're right up there nationally, so I think you're absolutely right. And now let's go back in time a little bit. Before you decided to come here, you had offers to go to other schools, didn't you? I did.
It came down to here, Purdue, and Providence.
So why choose a school like this one that hasn't had a lot of success, that's pretty small, over a school like Purdue, for instance?
I saw a lot of pride here. Nothing to take away from Purdue. I just saw a lot of pride here, and obviously my father came here. It's something to do with, doing it alongside your father is something very special. And I saw the pride that this school has, and that was special too. And to do it at a small school, and I saw the talent when I came here. When I came here over the summer, I saw guys that can make my job a lot easier, and I thought it could be a very dangerous team. I know a lot of people, including all the coaches in the league, predicted us to be 9th out of 10 teams in the league, and we love that. And we like the underdog feeling. It's something bittersweet about being the underdog, and we feel like we can win a MAAC championship, and we still feel that to this day, and that's what we're going to go to Springfield to do.
Well, you just said from the very beginning you thought this is a team that could win a MAAC championship, but they won 1 game in conference last year. They won 5 overall. How could you really believe that coming off such a not good season?
Yeah, beyond the talent, we found common ground, and we've faced a lot of adversity. All the guys on this team have faced adversity, whether it's guys who transfer, that's something not easy to do, and guys have lost in the past. And coming to a common ground when you face adversity, you know what that feels like, and you kind of know what the bottom feels like, and you kind of get sick of that, to tell you the truth. So being hungry coming into the season, along with the mixed talent that we have, is something very dangerous, and we're looking to exploit that this weekend.
Absolutely. Now, being here at Canisius, outside of basketball, what do you major in? What are the other things you do here?
I'm a major in marketing. I definitely want to take that, and after I'm done playing basketball, hopefully professionally for a little bit. I want to do some in the business field, do some competitive. I like that competitive feel, so I want to. I'm not necessarily sit behind a desk. I want to be active, but I also want to be competitive and stick to my major and be a marketing major and do some in that field.
Would you ever give any thought to, before going into your career, though, trying to play overseas for a little bit like your brother did? Or?
Yeah, for sure. My brother makes a great living over there, and that's a great experience being overseas. And you're very independent over there, and you learn about other cultures. Obviously, my goal would be stay over here and play, but if that doesn't work, I'd love to play overseas and make a living over there.
Do you think you'd have a chance to stay over here and play professionally?
It's all about, you got to put the time in, obviously. It's all about winning games. It's all about getting to that NCAA tournament, and it's what you do there. A lot of guys are fighting for 60 spots to get drafted. And, it's obviously you got to work very, very hard. You got to dedicate yourself. You got to make a lot of sacrifices. But you also got to win games. I think that's the most important thing. You saw Lehigh last year, and C.J. McCollum really showed out versus Duke. And, not a lot of people saw him in the Patriot League, even though he was putting up great numbers. Not a lot of people saw him, and when he crushed Duke and beat them and put them on the map, especially for this year coming in, a lot of people knew him nationally. Even though he went to Lehigh, a lot of people knew about him, and beating Duke and getting to the NCAA tournament, getting that national exposure is huge.
That's absolutely true. But then, on the same hand, one could ask, going to a school like Purdue would definitely give you a lot more recognition. So, if your goal is to play professionally, why not go there?
The whole thing being with my father. I think he has my best interests at heart. Especially I want to be a point guard, and they're recruiting me to be a 2 there, and I really want to be a point guard. I feel like my future is best there, and he's got my best interests at heart. And winning games here, it's the same thing. I thought we have a very dangerous team coming here, and I thought we can get to the NCAA tournament, and that's what we're looking to do.
So if you weren't playing basketball, what sport do you think you'd be playing?
Probably be quarterback. That's I kind of regret not taking that up in high school. I'd probably definitely be quarterback.
So outside of basketball, then would you say your favorite sport is football?
Yeah, I'm a big Patriots fan.
Okay, all right. I'm sure people in Buffalo love that.
Yeah.
But, obviously, we don't have a football team here. So of the sports they do offer here, is there one that you follow a little bit more?
Golf. Golf a lot. I mean, I'm a big-time golfer. So, do they have a golf team here?
They do. Yeah, it's a guys' team.
Yeah, so I definitely follow golf. I'm a big golfer, too.
All right, what do you shoot on your team?
Good day, mid-80s.
All right, that's not bad at all. It's better than what I'll put up there, so I'll give you that. So every week on the show, what we do is the Golden Performer of the Week, and we nominate about 4 to 5 different athletes from different sports. One of the nominations was your teammate Alshwan Hines for going over 1,000 points. But we ultimately decided this week to give it to the first baseman of the baseball team, Jimmy Luppins. He was 5 for 10 over the weekend. He had 4 RBIs, 5 runs scored. You didn't mention baseball, but you follow baseball at all? Do you know?
Yeah, here and there. My Red Sox struggled, so it's kind of tough doing that. But I'm following the baseball team here a little bit.
All right, so I mean that's a pretty good weekend.
Yeah,
they
got a sweep over Murray State over the weekend, right?
They did, yeah. Pushed them up
great.
to 7-4. It was a good weekend for them.
That's great.
So hopefully everybody enjoying some success, and hopefully the spring sports can build off the momentum that you guys have created here with your season.
For sure.
So best of luck in the MAAC Championship. Billy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks,
It was
man.
great to have you on the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we will preview the MAAC Championship with Nick Veronica, the editor of The Griffin, and Joe Rutigliano of C-Block. Stay with us. This is #Griff Sports.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. Nope.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to #Griff Sports, and Brandon and I are now joined by Nick Veronica, the editor of The Griffin, and Joe Rutigliano, the frequent contributor to the show, and we're going to take a look at the MAAC Championship bracket on the men's side, take you through each matchup and reveal our picks for each game. So guys, let's first start out with that first round. A lot of people are going to overlook these games because it's the bottom 4 seeds, but why shouldn't they do that? Why are these going to be entertaining matchups? And we'll start with you, Nick.
Well, teams that play in the play-in round, they have a hard time advancing through because they're tired from that first game. But for those teams, it's a good chance to really get rolling. I think Fairfield is probably one of the better 7 seeds you're going to see in any tournament. And so, I mean, if they can get rolling that first game, they got a good shot to keep going through.
Joe?
Well, for the most part, throughout the entire season, there hasn't really been one team that's just been completely awful. You've seen St. Peter's compete and beat Iona. Marist beat Iona as well, and Sienna's played up there at the top. So I think that this is going to be an interesting, couple of games. If Fairfield goes out, I think they can beat Ryder, and Marist. There's no reason why they can't go up and beat Niagara. But it'll be an interesting first day.
So Brandon, give us your take, and then we'll go through in opposite order and give us the prediction for each game.
Okay, well, I think you can never count out these teams. Always make sure you look at these teams because they can always sneak up on you. Ever heard of like the Cinderella stories in the NCAA tournaments? That could always happen in any given tournament. So I would watch out for any of these teams.
So who do you got in each game?
I think I have Fairfield against St. Peter's, and I have Sienna in an upset against Marist.
All right, Joe?
I'm going to take Marist and also Fairfield.
I'm going to go right with Joe. Fairfield's a good 7, and I just don't think Siena has enough to win that game. They got too many injuries.
That could be true, and I agree with both of you. I'm taking the top 2 seeds in that one. So moving on to that second round, I would place Rider against Fairfield, Niagara against Siena. Rider's the hot team right now. They've won 5 in a row. They just beat Canisius. They beat Niagara earlier. Why should we look out for them coming into the tournament?
Well, Rider plays really well. They shoot the ball well. They play defense on the 3 ball, which we saw against Canisius, much better than most teams within the MAAC. And, you know, they hit the big shot. They hit the big shot down the stretch against Canisius, and they'll probably hit it, you know, again in the tournament. I think Fairfield is definitely a team to watch for them. But Fairfield plays their style of game, so I think that Fairfield could give them a run for their money, but I think Rider's too hot right now, and they'll ride right through.
Got to agree with Joe there. I mean, you saw just this weekend, Rider, they're a real scrappy team. They hung around with Canisius and knocked them out at the end. Canisius had to lead a lot of the game, and Rider came back and just knocked them out, so I think they're going to overtake Fairfield.
Kyle, you and I were at the Rider-Canisius game. We saw what Rider could do. They could really pressure the point guards and really, like, obstruct a team's offense. So I think they have a really good shot to, like, do something big in this tournament.
Well, I agree. Like I said, they're the hot team right now, and they're the team I'd be most scared of because they have all this momentum coming into the tournament. So now looking at that other game, Niagara versus Siena, Niagara's the #1 seed, so again, probably a lot of people are just going to pencil them right in for the victory. Is that the smart decision?
I think it is. I mean, Niagara, they have times this season where they have not played very well. They've dropped 3 in a row down the stretch a little bit there, but I mean, Joe Mahawk's team, they're going to be good. I don't see the upset coming for them so early.
Yeah, no way. I mean, they play way too well. They've got a lot of good star players there. You got Antoine Mason, Wanye Green. You know, as much as I hate to say it, DJ Klein's solid off the bench. And, you know, this is a team that, I mean, they can do a lot of damage, or if they're not having their best night, they can also, you know, fail out. But I don't see them losing to Siena or Marist as much as I'd like to, but I don't see it happening.
Niagara showed throughout the whole season why they're the #1 seed in this tournament. They have played consistently. They played well. They had a few games where they didn't show up, but they have been consistent throughout the whole season. I think they're not going to have any trouble with these 2 teams.
Yeah, I agree with all 3 of you, so we're all in agreement on the top 2 seeds moving on. We'll take a look at Iona versus Canisius, which everybody wants to hear about in just a second. And right now, look at Loyola versus Manhattan. We were talking about that a little bit before the show. That should be a really interesting game.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to win, to be honest. Loyola is the higher seed, but Manhattan has competed with every team in the MAAC this year. They've beaten Iona at home. They competed up there with Loyola on Sunday. They only lost by 2. I think the score was 63-61. They're doing all this without their top player, George Beeman, who's out for the season, and he'll be back next year, so that makes them even more dangerous. But I don't know if Manhattan's going to be able to compete down low with the guys for Loyola, Eric Etherly, his first team all MAAC. So it's going to be an interesting game. I don't think Manhattan's going to be able to pull it out, though. I think Loyola wins.
Joe, right on again. I mean, Loyola, they're your defending champ. I mean, they got Eric Etherly. He's just a beast. I mean, you've seen it if you watch the games. I do give Manhattan a lot of credit. They played. I mean, they really came together without Beeman. They came together. They have their very defined roles, but I think Loyola, the big men, are just going to be too much.
Well, when I look at both of these games, we can honestly say there's not going to be a cakewalk for any team. If they're going to win it, it's going to be a tough physical battle between 2 games. I think Loyola has the willpower to make a run and beat Manhattan when it goes down the stretch, while Iona and Canisius, they're going to go at it. I mean, we saw the matchups earlier before in the season. It's going to be an amazing fight. I can't wait to see this matchup, but I think Canisius pulls out on top going low post.
Yeah, absolutely. Both those games will be interesting matchups. I actually think that Manhattan can get the upset against Loyola. You know, Loyola is the defending champion, so you'd think that would give them an advantage over any team they're playing. But I like what I've seen out of Manhattan. You said they've been playing without their top player, but they're still finding ways to win. I think they could sneak up on a lot of people. And now moving on to Iona and Canisius, everybody wants to hear about that. Iona is the team I was most worried about with Canisius getting matched up with in that second round. So I don't know if you 3 are afraid as I am.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. I mean, Iona, Canisius, they lost the game to the 5 seed, 4-5. Doesn't really matter. You're still playing the same team.
Yeah.
But Iona is just so dangerous. The way, they get up the court so fast. They're such a fast-paced team. They've scored 100 points a couple of times this year. But if there's somebody to worry about, it's going to be Iona because of how dangerous they can be. The teams, they split the series. They split the season series, but Canisius has really limited Momo Jones in both games this year. He scored 20 points in both games combined, and that's less than his single game average this year. So if they can contain him, and I think it really just comes down to all season, just if they can hit threes, they got a good shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now it comes down to really two things defensively. And one, it kind of goes along with both Momo Jones, and you said it, and Sean Armand. He's their sharpshooter. When Canisius went down to Iona, Armand had 32 points, and he was almost the difference maker. They had a guy come off the bench that scored 10, which kind of made the difference there. But Momo Jones has also really, really been a key for them when they win their games. He scored 35 the other night against Loyola, and that's why they won, because they wouldn't have won that game without Momo Jones. And then also, you got to limit their bigs. If their bigs can't get anything, then that's not really going to help them. They're not going to have Sean Armand. If you do key one, then you do key two, you can't lose that game. I think we match up well. Canisius has a bunch of great, big guys. Chris Manhertz can stay out of foul trouble. Jordan Heath out of foul trouble and healthy. Josiah Heath coming off the bench. And then your guards got to do a great job. Harold and Billy got to really get in the shorts of Armand and Momo Jones. And it's going to be a battle. We know that. Griff's lost 97-87 at Iona, and then won at home 77-74. So it's going to go right down to the wire.
It's funny you mentioned that. This is a neutral place. Anything can happen. It's going to be both fans from each group go into the game. It's going to be a very tough matchup. The Canisius Golden Griffins are going to be healthy when it comes into the game. The Heat Brothers will be full in production and work. But Iona, they have that factor to make this a game. They have this to still beat the hearts of the Canisius fans, and I'm just getting excited about this game, man. It's gonna be crazy.
Well, you just mentioned is that a neutral site, and there's two things that really worry me about this matchup, and we'll see if you three agree. But the fact that it's at a neutral site, Canisius plays much better in front of a crowd, and I know C-Block's trying to get people to go down to Massachusetts and support them there, but they're not gonna have that home court advantage that they have at the Kessler Athletic Center. And Iona's one of the best offensive teams in the MAAC, if not the best. I'm not sure that Canisius is going to have that same kind of firepower, and I think that in this game I'm actually going to pick Iona.
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you. C-Block is trying to get a bunch of people to go, but the one thing I noticed last year, and one thing I've noticed kind of looking through some history of the MAAC tournament, and especially at that particular arena, last year Iona went down. They were the hot #1 seed, and they went in and they lost. And that was a big deal in the MAAC, that this team went in with such high expectations and wasn't able to play well in that arena. And I'm telling you, it's not that easy of an arena to play in. It's a hockey arena. It's also, depending on when you play, it could be bad news. 2:30 in the afternoon, or I'm sorry, we're playing at 4? 4, yeah, we're playing at 4.
Yeah.
And Canisius really, when they get into it, it's all about whether or not you shoot the basketball well. And that starts with Isaac Sosa, and then it kind of trickles down. I don't think really, if Isaac Sosa's shooting the ball well, then everything just kind of flows a lot better. And I don't think Iona does a good enough job defensively. If you look at when they score, they go down, Canisius brings the ball down, they hit a shot, and then all of a sudden the ball's back down on the Iona's offensive end, and they score a bucket before there's 28 on the shot clock. They live for beating people back in transition, and I don't think that's going to happen going down the stretch. I'm going to take Canisius.
Well, let me ask you. We talked about it earlier. The Jordan Heath's presence on defense. He has been trouble with the ankle, and we saw playing without him there, a completely different team on defense. Do you feel he's ready to go, and what's he going to be able to give?
I think he's absolutely ready to go. He sprained his ankle again or rolled it, whatever. This is the MAAC tournament. This is the game. If he were to get hurt in this game, I still wouldn't say that that would knock Canisius out of the tournament. But he's a great player. He takes the Griffs up another step defensively, and I think he's going to be able to give 100% without a doubt.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but say if you were in Heath's position, you're just coming off an injury, you played last game, and now it's a MAAC tournament. Last season, you had a horrible season. Now you have a chance at the MAAC Championship.
Right.
Wouldn't you want to play in that game?
Exactly. I'm not saying that. Of course he wants to play. I'm just wondering what his status is going to be.
Yeah, when he had that game to play against Ryder, and he looked almost back to 100% there. If he was to get hurt again, though, did you guys see enough out of Josiah when they played St. Peter's that he could fill in for him?
It's not that Josiah is not capable. It's just that he's not. He plays a different role on the team. Josiah's more of an energy guy. He comes in, he draws charges, he gets blocks. He's more of a defensive type of role player, where Jordan plays a little bit more all around. He plays, he does a lot of good things on the offensive end, does a lot of good things on the defensive end. When you lose Jordan, you have to take him out of the game. That's not a huge offensive hit, but it definitely, Iona doesn't have to worry about Josiah getting the ball in the low post and making a great move or whatever, or shooting the ball on the arc. So I think it's a hit, but I think Josiah is capable enough, and the rest of the team can step it up. That's the other thing. This team really can step it up when somebody goes down. You saw it in Niagara when Billy rolled his ankle there, and he came back. But this is a team that's going to come back, and it won't matter. And down the stretch, they're going to hit their shots.
I think when you look at the two brothers there, even though Jordan is listed a little bit taller on the score sheet, I think he plays a little bit bigger, and he goes up a little bit more fearlessly for blocks, especially on defense. Josiah's good on defense too. I think Jordan definitely has the edge on offense. So, even if he doesn't put up the points, he's a threat to score that the defense needs to watch out for. So I think he's going to be very important.
Well, I have to say about the situation is that if he's out, Chris Medhurst is going to have a lot of eyes on him, because we all know that he's going to be the main target low post for them now, because he gets rebounds, he could score low posts, he knows all the utensils down in the paint. I think all eyes will be on him if he gets injured again.
I would agree with that. And now before we move on to the semifinal round, all three of you are picking Canisius to beat Iona?
Absolutely.
Of course.
You mentioned Iona. I don't have a pick for you, but I know it's been a great season. It would be a shame to lose in the quarterfinals, but it's not. It's going to be really a toss-up. Iona scores the third most points in the country. They're a very good team as well. So I think Canisius, they can do it, and I'd really love to just see a Canisius-Niagara rematch. I'm going to take Canisius to get that game.
All right. Well, then, looking ahead to the semifinal round, though, you three picked Loyola and Canisius. I picked Manhattan Iona, so we'll assume that the majority will move on, so we'll say Loyola and Canisius. So Ryder versus Loyola, that should be a really interesting matchup. Ryder's the hot team, Loyola's the defending champion. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's going to be a really difficult game for Loyola. Loyola doesn't shoot the ball well from outside the arc. They do have Robert Olson who shoots well, but that's only one guy. And also down low, they have a physical presence, but the only thing is Ryder matches up with them really well. Ryder's playing well. And if you look at Loyola, they are a seasoned team. They won the MAAC tournament last year. It should be a really difficult game for both teams. That will be a fun one to watch, and it'll be on ESPN3. So maybe we'll catch it.
You look at these teams. There's no such thing as an easy game in a conference tournament, but this is going to be just a real dogfight all the way through. Ryder matches up well with them, but Ryder matches up with everybody kind of well. So it's going to be tough. And you can't have a tournament without an upset, I guess. I don't know if 3/2 is really an upset, but I guess I'll take Loyola there. I like the experience. Even though Ryder, they're hot, I like Ryder. We need an upset, so we're going to go with Loyola.
Oh, I'll disagree with you a little bit. We do need an upset, but I think Ryder could beat anybody right now, and I think they'll really make a run in this one. What are your thoughts, Brandon?
One word. Defense. Defense, it wins games, it makes offense, it does a whole lot for your team. Defense is what's going to come down for this whole game, and it's going to be a great battle. But I think Ryder's defense, the way we saw against Canisius, I think they have enough defense to beat any team. So I have to take Ryder in this one.
Well, let's look at the other side of the bracket now. If it happens the way we all agreed, it would be Niagara versus Canisius. That's the game everybody wants. They split in the regular season. It would be absolute pandemonium down there. What's going to happen in that game?
That would just be really crazy. You guys saw the game at Niagara was probably one of the most intense games I've seen in my 4 years here. I mean, it was regular season. It was a playoff game. It was every single possession was incredibly important. It was a battle. Billy Barron got beat up on every play, and he was just dogging through it. So, I mean, that's throw out the records. I hate to be cliche on you, but just throw it all out. It's probably going to come down to what team scores in the last minute to win the game. Who hits the big shot, I guess. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see, Isaac Sosa drain a three and Jim Barron just, losing his mind on the sideline. So, it's great for Western New York basketball. They have a team playing for the championship. Canisius hasn't even been to the semifinal in like 10 years. But if it goes to Niagara, I can't pick Niagara over Canisius.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can honestly pick Niagara over Canisius that goes here anyway. But here's the deal, and we've seen this over and over. We saw it. I mean, when I was here last year, I saw it in both games. When Niagara played here and we played at Niagara, it was both close games. This year, obviously, we don't talk about the home game, but still, you have to throw all the numbers out the window. There's no way to really just pick this game, because although the atmosphere probably won't be the same, because I was at the Niagara Canisius game at the MAAC tournament last year, and it was a different environment, but you just can't count on numbers to tell you who's going to win this game, because the emotions are going to be running high, and Isaac Sosa, Billy Barron, Harold Washington, Jordan Heath, Chris Manhertz. Do they have any cool names over there? Wanye? No. Canisius. Get out of here.
Throwing out the numbers and taking their nicknames?
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing, though. You really can't expect, anybody to,
You got Scooter Gillette, man. That's a cool name.
Oh, go home. I would say that you'd be better off picking a game based on the names than you would be picking on the numbers at this point. Because they're even. And you know what? When we went down and Canisius played at Niagara, they were head and shoulders better than Niagara was. And I know Niagara was missing Antoine Mason, but if you get one or two guys in foul trouble, that team is really not that deep. They've got Klein off the bench, who's, we know, and Devin White, he's all right, but I'm not really sold on that team. I think that they're good, but I don't think...
They won the league, I mean...
Yeah. Hey, listen, if Canisius doesn't lose to Siena, if, Ryder doesn't lose a game here or there, that's a game where we're right up there with Niagara.
What could have been.
I mean, really, the way I look at it is the top 5 teams in the MAAC are really just number 1 seeds, because you can't win with those guys. It's going to be a really difficult game.
Joe, you were at the game in last year's tournament, correct?
Yeah.
At that game, I know we obviously had a rough season, but just competing against other teams, like you felt if it came down to something, Niagara probably would have drawn up a better play. Joe Mahalik, give him respect here. He's a great coach. But this year I feel like we can really match up on every single level with them. There's no single area where we say, oh, well, they really have an edge here. I mean, it's just close all around.
No, I think we're completely even with them. I don't think that there's another team. I mean, besides Niagara, I don't think there's another team that's better than each other among those top 5 seeds. Obviously, some teams have their nights, but Canisius, they're just as good as Niagara. Niagara's just as good as Canisius. It'll be a hell of a game.
Listen, if Wanya Green wears the shirt and warm-ups again with his Twitter handle on the back, it's automatic loss. So don't do that, please.
We'll have to watch out for that then. And I agree with what you guys are saying. If Canisius does get past Iona, I think these teams are just about as equal as you can be. And of course, with it being a rivalry game, you throw everything else out the window. And if Canisius could get past Niagara to get into the MAAC Championship, that would be unbelievable for this school, reaching heights it hasn't seen in quite some time.
Isn't this what college basketball is all about? 2 rival teams, 1-1 series tied. If they go into this matchup, neutral building, infamous buzzer beater game, crush them at their place. This is what it's all about. If this happens, I guarantee you this would be like the game of the tournament, because these 2 teams really hate each other. They're willing to get physical with each other. We saw the technical fouls at their place. I'm so excited for this. This is going to be mind-numbingly awesome. That's all I have to say for it. Awesome.
And something I just wanted to add is that this may actually be the championship game, in a way, because Niagara and Canisius, when these 2 teams meet, they play at such a high level that, their next game, they're going to be still there. The next day, they're still going to have everything they had the night before. So I think that the team that wins this game wins the tournament.
Yeah, and I agree with all of you guys that it has to be Canisius. I think there's no way they let them beat them again after that infamous buzzer beater. I guess they say it like, nope, that's it. You're not getting any more lucky shots, nothing else. We're going to beat you down and win this game. That's what I feel from that team.
I mean, I'm sure Niagara's probably saying the same thing on their campus. They're saying there's no way we're losing to Canisius again, but I can really see this game coming down to, last possession, last shot. Somebody, Jordan Heath's going to knock away a pass in the last second. It's going to come down. It's going to be a great game.
One of those nights when that game will be the day I won't watch the last possession because I can't handle it.
That's fair enough. So then if you look ahead at the championship, we all kind of disagreed that this would actually be the real championship, so that kind of gives away the pick there. The panel is split, Rider and Loyola, so it would be Canisius versus Rider, a rematch of last weekend. And if we think Canisius would beat Niagara, can we all agree they'd beat Rider as well?
Yeah, Rider doesn't belong as the number 2 seed because, as I was talking to some of the guys earlier today, and they said, Coach had said we lost that game. It was our game to win, and I've seen that with a lot of the games is that Canisius really beats themselves. They beat themselves against Siena, beat themselves against Niagara at home. We were up in that game by like 9 points with 8 minutes left. Those are games they need to just close it, put the pedal to the metal, and end it, and go for the jugular. And at this point, once you get past Niagara, all the pressure's off. You beat your rival in the conference tournament. If you lose, yeah, it sucks, but we got bragging rights for another whole year.
Joe, I know you want it to happen. I know we've had a great story all year long with Jim Barron, the resurgence. I mean, we've had the biggest turnaround in school history this year. I don't know, to win every game. I mean, there's a little bit of luck there, I guess, but you figure at some point, it's just going to catch up with them. The other teams, they're all good and they're wanted just as badly. So, I mean, at some point, you do have to. I mean, anybody can get hot. I think a couple of years ago, Fairfield was the last seed and they went all the way through, but. I mean, yeah, it's going to be the teams that have proven that they can win, and even this game against Rider, that was a must-win game. Almost we had a shot to come out number 1, and we lost that game. I think we went. Was it the last 3.5 minutes maybe without scoring? I mean, it's bad. It's not. You can overcome that, but I feel like you need to have a history of coming through in the clutch. So,
yeah, talking about that game, They had 4 possessions, took 4 3-pointers, none of them made it. Even Isaac Sosa with 29 seconds, I think, missed a wide open shot, and they just came back down and just hit a 3-pointer and just crushed that whole building. You can't really say that Rider doesn't have a chance because they're going to have a swagger about them. They beat them at their building. I mean, championship game, everything's on the line. Canisius, they had a great run. Harold Washington, the rest of the guys, that's their last game potentially, and you have to say that these 2 teams are going to give it all they have. That's what I think about it.
That's right. And so now if you look at it as a whole, we all agreed all of these teams stack up with each other. It's going to depend on who gets hot. One team's going to win the championship. They're going to get the automatic bid. The MAAC had 2 teams in the NCAA tournament last year. Do you see something like that happening again?
I don't. I mean, last year, Iona, they were kind of on the bubble all season. They had great non-conference wins. This year, it's definitely, I think, in my opinion, at least, it's definitely one big conference. The loser of the championship game, or not the loser, Niagara will have an automatic NIT bid, and then if they would go to the NCAA, I think the number 2 team, I think that's how it works, they get the NIT bid.
I think it's the 32 teams after, the 68, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think Niagara is actually in there right now.
Right, unless they go to the NCAA, then I think it would be the number 2 team from our conference. Rider would get the automatic bid to the NIT. The regular season champion gets the automatic bid.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I mean, can you imagine Canisius going to the NCAA tournament if we would win this? I mean, last year the 5-25, everything we went through. It's almost hard to believe that one season after last year if we would have said Canisius is going to win the tournament, it's a prayer. But it's realistic this year.
Yeah, and that's something that you 2 know more than both of us do with us being freshmen. Definitely. You guys saw how bad it was last year and the years before that. But we're kind of getting used to winning, and I like it a lot, Brandon. But,
I didn't see Canisius win all of last year. They won, 5 games, but somehow I just didn't get to see them, and I was at pretty much every game. So This year, I've only seen him lose twice, so it should be interesting. But one thing I wanted to add about the championship game is that, or any game really in the tournament, is at some point the shots are going to fall for Canisius down the stretch in that last minute on that last possession, because we've seen it against Siena, we've seen it against Ryder, we've seen it against Niagara. Just Canisius hasn't caught the break yet. And I know that we won, some close games, Iona, Loyola, whatever. I don't think that you can deny that at some point it's going to come around. Whether that is, it comes around in the Niagara game, we get the shot, and then we lose, we get blown out against Ryder in the championship game. Whatever happens, I think that this is going to be, a tournament to remember for us. As long as we get past that first game, that's the hump.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Let's go.
You're Jim Barron. Tie game. You got 5 seconds left. Who you drawing up a shot for?
Billy Barron.
I agree with Joe. I think you got to go Billy. Isaac's a really good shooter. Harold's a really good shooter, but Billy's the leader of this team. He's got to take the final shot.
I don't know. I think I'll go with Harold. I mean, he's been looking so good. Instead of that injury he had, I think I would give him a shot.
What about you, Nick?
I mean, if you need a 3, I think you're looking for Isaac there.
Yeah.
I mean, but I agree. You got to get the ball into Billy, but I'm giving an option if it's there. I mean, I would assume the other team is going to plan for Billy. So I mean, if they double team him, somebody's going to be open. So I would give the ball to Billy if the shot's there. Let him take it, but look for another option. But it depends if you need the 2 or 3 or how many you're looking for. But
yeah, can we just say that Coach Jim Barron has done a very good job with this team? I mean, this is a great situation that we're in. Talking about the MAAC Championship, saying they have a chance. I mean, that's all congratulations to Jim Barron. I mean, this guy has done an excellent job with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the difference between Coach Barron and Coach Parada is that Coach Barron won those close games, St. Bonaventure, UB, all those early season games that I don't think Coach Parada really had the coaching, utilities, the arsenal for. So I think that Coach Barron's done a really nice job. I know this isn't exactly Coach Parada's team, but there are some guys that were on it. But I mean, I just got to go back to Billy Barron on this. Like, he's come in and really helped this team buy in, and Mr. Clutch, really. I mean, this guy, aside obviously the layup that he didn't get and no foul call on Saturday, I mean, the Barons are one of the biggest reasons why this team is where it is right now.
Right. That's absolutely right. So really quick, let's go through and get everybody's closing thoughts on this, and then we'll send it to commercial and wrap up the show. Brandon, we'll start with you.
It's going to be a very great tournament, but I have Canisius win the whole thing.
At the risk of just being a homer here, I mean, I'm just going to say everyone in this conference is really so close. I mean, Canisius probably is the same percentage, I guess, is winning the tournament and is losing to Iona in the first round. So, I mean, flip a coin, man.
Hey, this is what we've been waiting for. As Scott Mosier says, you're only this good once in a while. So there's nothing. This is what we live for. This is going to be an exciting weekend, and I can't wait to live through it.
I think that's exactly how everyone should be looking at this weekend. And now we're going to send it to commercial, and we're going to come back and wrap up the show for you. Thanks for watching. This is #GriffSports.
Hi, this is Mallory Hagan, Miss America 2013. I'm here to talk about a difficult subject, child sexual abuse. It's a crime that can impact anyone. I know because members of my own family were victims. It needs to stop now, and the only way it ends is to talk about it. I'm proud to partner with Brooklyn District Attorney Charles J. Hines to raise awareness for this issue. District Attorney Hines was the first in the nation to create a Crimes Against Children Bureau. Their staff of attorneys and counselors are dedicated to prosecuting those who prey on the most innocent victims. Please don't stay silent. If you know a child who is in immediate danger, please call 911. If you suspect a child is being abused or neglected, please call the State Central Register at 1-800-342-3720. Join me and District Attorney Hines' fight to end child sexual abuse.
If you can say with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. 'Cause every kid across the nation deserves a book to read, and we can make it happen right now.
No, I don't know what you've been told, but kids with books learn so much more. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. some magic. She's the writing on the wall, writing on the wall. Can make a difference. One look inspires a child. One look could be the first thing that helps to change a life.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Welcome back to #Griff Sports, as Brandon and I are now back at the desk. And before we look ahead to what's coming up for the Griffs, let's take a look at the golden stat of the week. Griffs baseball hit just 198 with runners in scoring position in their opening 8 games, but the Bats woke up in the 3-game series with Murray State as they hit a .442 clip in the series. Now let's take a look at what's coming up for the Griffs this weekend. Besides the tournament games that we already talked about, softball plays in the Hampton Pirate Invitational, where they will take on Delaware and Central Connecticut State on Friday, and Maryland Eastern Shore and Hampton on Saturday. Baseball begins a 4-game series on the road against Longwood, and men's and women's lacrosse will be in action. The men's team takes on Albany at home on Saturday. The women play against Ohio State in Columbus, Ohio on Sunday, and the men will be on the road Tuesday night against Hobart in Geneva, New York. That's what's coming up for the Griffs. Now we'll turn it over to Brandon for a Buffalo Sports Minute.
Hey everybody. As we break in this new segment of Buffalo Sports Minute, I love to issue out a first ever state of emergency. Now, as you know, I'm a Buffalo sports fan, and you know what's happening with the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres. I blame Kyle for the Sabres. We fired Lindy Ruff, and Coletta has a 5-game suspension. And we're not looking as high as we lost to the Carolina Hurricanes. While the Buffalo Bills are franchise tagging Jarius Byrd and Andy Levitre still on free agency. What's happening here? I mean, we're not getting any younger. Ralph Winston's not getting younger. We need to pick it up. We are at cause for concern as fans, and I don't see it getting any better. Sure, I have hope as always, but we really need to do something about this whole Buffalo city, because this city deserves a championship, and hopefully it'll come soon. So I'm hoping, and that's been a Buffalo Sports Minute. Kyle?
Thanks, Brandon. Insightful as always. And now before we end the show, let's just take a look at a few final notes. Billy Barron was picked first team All-MAAC, and Harold Washington, his teammate, was picked third team All-MAAC. On the women's side, Ashley Durham was picked to the first team. Tiana Mills picked to the MAAC All-Rookie team. Let's move on to baseball. Freshman right fielder Brett Siddall was named MAAC Rookie of the Week. And in women's lacrosse, Maria Cotis and Lindsey Morgan, respectively, were named Offensive and Defensive Players of the Week. Synchronized swimming won their 16th consecutive Eastern College Athletic Conference Championship on Sunday. And rowing will take part in the Jesuit Invitational on Friday, while also squaring off against the Universities of Florida and South Florida on Saturday.
Well, that's all we have for you today. This has been another exciting episode of #Griff Sports.
I'm Kyle Ferrara.
And I'm Brendan Rudd. This is #Griff Sports. See you soon.